So what obstacles do women have?
There's so many obstacles, usually between our ears, I think, that we that we face. And what I've observed, and certainly what I heard back, was that there were a few that really got in the way. And when I say got in the way, I mean of allowing ourselves to think about moving to something different or moving to something better. It wasn't even that the obstacles were in achieving it. It was taking that first step sometimes. And to some extent, we saw things like trying opened up the possibility of failure, right? And we all deal with that.
So
right?
Julie, let me just ask you a question, because during COVID lockdown, I spoke to a lot of young university females.
Yeah.
And they all struggled with making a decision.
Yeah.
They were all so afraid of making a decision. Did you find anything in your research about decision making and risk? Because those are the two things that impede women the most.
I do think so, and for very different reasons. I mean, sometimes we perceive risk. Well, first of all, I would say stress itself stops us from making decisions.
True.
So it doesn't surprise me that during COVID, a lot of people were impacted by that. But I think that the way we set up our own role, either in our own heads or because we've been told, can get in the way of this. So we often feel like we carry the weight of the world on our shoulders, that if I just move off course for a minute, everything around me is just somehow going to fail. But as long as I never articulate that I want something different, I can't actually fail it. So it feels like there's these competing issues that we've got. And the other thing I might say is that sometimes when we feel that everybody relies on us, we kind of like it. Like there's also a personal issue.
There's an addictive part to it.
So I think we have to get very honest with ourselves. And that was one of the hallmarks of people who transformed, was that they were incredibly honest at the outset.
And I think that's really important, especially if any of us want to make a change in our lives. We need to be extremely honest, not with, if I was to make a change, do I have to be extremely honest with you? I need to be extremely honest with myself.
That's it, yeah.
So if we're looking at honesty, what's the framework? What were the steps that you identified on the path to absolute engagement for these people?
Well, and the first step is really it's a reflection of what you were just saying, and it's awareness. So the steps themselves were awareness, audacity, action, accountability, and renewal. Mm-hmm. And I find a framework really helpful, just because we like to jump midway to a process, right? We like to start thinking about all the reasons it won't work. And having any kind of framework, I think, just grounds us in this path and this approach. So those were the 5 steps that we saw that were really quite consistent.
So I want to go through all the 5 steps with you, but I think one of the other things that we need to look at when you look at the framework, patience.
Oh, yes.
Because I think this is something that everyone has lost in their lives right now, and everyone wants everything right now, 5 minutes ago, and nobody wants to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, and I would also argue it's patience broadly, but being patient with ourselves and giving ourselves a break, because this path is not consistent. Everything is not going to be perfect. So having that ability to give ourselves a break and be patient with making some mistakes, that's critical to this process.
And I'm glad that you brought that up, because everybody, it doesn't matter who it is you talk to, have you finished this? Well, no, it's not perfect yet.
Right.
A lot of people are looking for that perfection.
Yeah.
The problem is it's a moving scale, and you'll never get to perfection because there's no such thing.
Absolutely. I think that's probably the number one thing I've seen hold people back, is this perfectionism trap. And that's what it is.
And I think one of the other things, when we come back from break, I want to talk to you about the steps and go in depth with all of them. But before we go, I want to talk about the fact that, we do have a lot of negativity in our brains, and we do put ourselves down on a regular basis. And I'm not sure whether your research came up with anything that could be helpful, but we do have that imposter syndrome. Do you have any suggestions for anyone that, I've had it. I'm sure you've gone through it as well.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I think the suggestions are really just about being aware that this is happening, because the downfall is if we're not. So this idea that I should be this person, I should be doing something, self-editing, self-doubt, just have to ground ourselves in what's going on, and then we can move forward.
That is great. So when we come back, we'll talk about all the steps to help us be aware.